Good morning. Good morning, children. I'm Padmini Narkar, teacher from Chembur Naka MPS School. Today, we are beginning our day with our English lecture from our English Kumar Bharti, Standard 9. Kindly open your textbooks. Unit 4.3, page number 93. Intellectual rubbish. Now, on the screen, you can see a photograph, a picture. And this person is none other than the writer of Intellectual Rubbish, December 1995, Bertrand Arthur William Russell, 1872 to 1970, was a British philosopher, logician, essayist, and social critic, best known for his work in mathematical logic and analytic philosophy. He has won award, that is Nobel Prize in Literature. Let's start with the warming up session. Page number. I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, teacher, it is visible.
Yeah, because I'm receiving some call and I'm trying to avoid it. Okay, fine. I'll just continue. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now the warming up part. The first question is, how will you react in the following situation? Your science teacher tells you plants exposed to the sunlight grow faster than those always in the shade. Now, when you know that your science teacher is telling you something, so if my science teacher tells me that plants exposed to sunlight grow faster than those always in the shade, I shall believe her, as I know, being a teacher, she knows more than me and she is there to teach me and I am there to learn from her. Your aunt tells you not to go for a job interview because it's a no moon day that very same day. Now, those who are, those who don't believe in this superstitious belief. So if my aunt tells me not to go for a job interview because it's a no moon day, that's the Amavasya, I shall definitely not obey her because I do not believe in such superstitions. And for me, the job interview is more important than the unknown effects of a no moon day. For us, the job is more important. We'll try to make our aunt understand regarding this. Now, the C1, your friend argues with you that Mount Everest is not the tallest peak in the world. Now, we all know, it has been known for many years that Mount Everest is the tallest peak in the world. I have read about it in several books and on the internet. Therefore, when a friend argues with me about it not being the tallest peak, I shall counter argue and back it with researches, with some evidences. D, a stranger at your door claims to be a magician and promises your mother to turn all her silver jewelry into gold. Now, we don't have to, go to what these people say. These strangers, they come to fool us. So this sounds a little funny to me. I will definitely not believe him and will not allow him inside my house. Now, let's move on to the next question. How do you notice? What do you notice about the following pairs of words? Act naturally, liquid gas, open secret, sound of silence, sweet sorrow, original copy, only choice, growing smaller. Now, if you observe, these words are a pair of opposites, antonyms, like the open secret. These are contradictory terms which appear together. They are used to create some sort of drama or laughter for the reader. They are called oxymorons. And if you can see the chapter's name, it is intellectual rubbish. You know, that is again an oxymoron because it is having opposite pairs. Intellectual is something which has intelligence, and rubbish which is useless. Okay, so this chapter is also, the name of the chapter is also an oxymoron. Now let's move on. Question number 3. Now try to add a contractive word to the following. Now see here, what a dash mess you've got us into. Now we have to use an oxymoron. So what a clear mess you've got us into. Next one is, it's a real imitation of a diamond necklace. So imitation and real. My trip to Matheran was a working holiday. Working and again a holiday. It's a oxymoron. With such heavy makeup, she looks pretty ugly. Again, this is an oxymoron. Next one, a small crowd gathered to see the magic show. A crowd and small. So again, two opposite words, which is a oxymoron. So contrasting words that go together are examples of the language called oxymoron. Let's move on to the next page, page number 94. Intellectual rubbish. To avoid the various foolish opinions to which mankind are prone, no superhuman genius is required. A few simple rules will keep you not from all error, but from silly error. If the matter is one that can be settled by observation, make the observation yourself. Aristotle could have avoided the mistake of thinking that women have fewer teeth than men by the simple device of asking Mrs. Aristotle to keep her mouth open while he counted. He did not do so because he thought he knew. Thinking that you know when in fact you don't is a fatal mistake to which we all are prone. I believe myself that hedgehogs eat black beetles because I have been told that they do. But if I were writing a book on the habits of hedgehogs, I should not commit myself until I had seen one enjoying this unappetizing diet. Aristotle, however, was less cautious. So, whenever we have to prove something, first we have to experiment it ourselves, and only then we should try to argue on that thing. Let's continue. Many matters, however, are less easily brought to the test of experience. If, like most mankind, you have passionate convictions on many such matters, there are ways in which you can make yourself aware of your own bias. If an opinion contrary to your own makes you angry, that is a sign that you are subconsciously aware of having no good reason for thinking as you do. If someone maintains that 2 and 2 are 5, or that Iceland is on the equator, you feel pity rather than anger unless you know so little of arithmetic or geography that his opinion shakes your own contrary conviction. The most savage controversies are those about matters as to which there is no good evidence either way. So whenever you find yourself getting angry about a difference of opinion, be on your guard. You will probably find on examination that your belief is going beyond what the evidence warrants. So again, in this paragraph, it has been said that you need to have proper knowledge before arguing on any point. Let's continue. A good way of ridding yourself of certain kinds of dogmatism is to become aware of opinions held in social circles different from your own. When I was young, I lived much outside my own country in France, Germany, Italy, and the United States. I found this very profitable in diminishing the intensity of insular prejudice. If you cannot travel, seek out people with whom you disagree and read a newspaper belonging to a party that is not yours. If the people and the newspaper seem mad, perverse, and wicked, remind yourself that you seem so to them. In this opinion, both parties may be right, but they cannot both be wrong. This reflection should generate a certain caution. Becoming aware of foreign customs, however, does not always have a beneficial effect. In the 17th century, when the Manchus conquered China, it was the custom among the Chinese for the women to have small feet and among the Manchus for the men to wear pigtails. Instead of each dropping their own foolish custom, they each adopted the foolish custom of the other, and the Chinese continued to wear pigtails until they shook off the dominion of the Manchus in the revolution of 1911. For those who have enough psychological imagination, it is a good plan to imagine an argument with a person having a different bias. This has one advantage and only one advantage as compared with actual conversation and opponents. This one advantage is that the method is not subject to the same limitations of time and space. Mahatma Gandhi deplored railways and steamboats and machinery. He would have liked to undo the whole of the Industrial Revolution. You may never have an opportunity of actually meeting anyone who holds this opinion because in Western countries, most people take the advantage of modern technique for granted. But if you want to make sure that you are right in agreeing with the prevailing opinion, you will find it a good plan to test the arguments that occur to you by considering what Gandhi might have said in refutation of them. I have sometimes been led actually to change my mind as a result of this kind of imagery, dialogue, and short of this, I have frequently found myself growing less dogmatic and cocksure through realizing the possible reasonableness of a hypothetical opponent. Page number 96. Be very wary of opinions that flatter your self-esteem. Both men and women, 9 times out of 10, are firmly convinced of the superior excellence of their own sex. There is abundant evidence on both sides. If you are a man, you can point out that most poets and men of science are male. If you are a woman, you can retort that so are most criminals. The question is inherently insoluble, but self-esteem conceals this from most people. We are all, whatever part of the world we come from, persuaded that our own nation is superior to all others. Seeing that each nation has its characteristics, merits, and demerits, we adjust our standard of values so as to make out that the merits possessed by our nation are the really important ones, while its demerits are comparatively trivial. As we are proud to be of our nation, so we will never go against the points or whatever the thoughts are. We will never go against that. Here again, the rational man will admit that the question is one to which there is no demonstrably right answer. It is more difficult to deal with the self-esteem of a man as man because we cannot argue out of the matter with some non-human mind. The only way I know of dealing with this general human conceit is to remind ourselves that man is a brief episode in the life of a small planet in a little corner of the universe, and that, for all we know, other parts of the cosmos may contain beings as superior to ourselves as we are to jellyfish. Other passions besides self-esteem are common sources of error. Of these, perhaps the most important is fear. Fear sometimes operates directly by inventing rumors of disaster in wartime or by imagining objects of terror such as ghosts. Sometimes it operates indirectly by creating belief in something comforting, such as the elixir of life or heaven for ourselves and hell for our enemies. Fear has many forms: fear of death, fear of the dark, fear of the unknown, and that vague generalized fear that comes to those who conceal from themselves their more specific terrors. Until you have admitted your own fears to yourself and have guarded yourself by a difficult effort of will against their myth-making power, you cannot hope to think truly about many matters of great importance, especially those with which religious beliefs are concerned. Fear is the main source of superstition and one of the main sources of cruelty. To conquer fear is the beginning of wisdom in the pursuit of truth, as in the endeavor after a worthy manner of life. There are two ways of avoiding fear. One is by persuading ourselves that we are immune from disaster, and the other is to practice of sheer courage. The latter is difficult and to everybody becomes impossible at a certain point. The former has therefore always been more popular. Primitive magic has the purpose of securing safety either by injuring enemies or by protecting oneself by the talismans, spells, or incantations. Without any essential change, belief in such ways of avoiding danger survived throughout the many centuries of civilization. Science has now lessened the belief in magic, but many people place more faith in mascots than they are willing to avow. Neither a man, nor a crowd, nor a nation can be trusted to act humanly or to think sanely under the influence of a great fear. And for this reason, poltroons are more prone to cruelty than brave men and are also more prone to superstition. But we have been getting too solemn. Superstitions are not always dark and cruel. Often they add to the gaiety of life. I received once a communication from the god Osiris giving me his telephone number. He lived at that time in a suburb of Boston. Although I did not enroll myself among his worshippers, his letter gave me pleasure. I have frequently received letters from men announcing themselves as the Messiah and urging me not to omit to mention the important fact in my lectures. I admired especially a certain prophetess who lived beside a lake in northern New York state about the year 1820. She announced to her numerous followers that she possessed the power of walking on water and that she proposed to do so at 11 o'clock on a certain morning. At the stated time, the faithful assembled in their thousands beside the lake. She spoke to them, saying, "Are you all entirely persuaded that I can walk on water?" With one voice, they replied, "We are." In that case, she announced, "There is no need for me to do so." And they all went home much edified. Now, see here, what she wanted to say is that she's going to walk on water. But did she do that? No. What she told the people that if you believe that I can walk, then why do I need to prove that? And when they heard what she said, they all were edified. They had to agree to that. Perhaps the world would lose some of its interest and variety if such beliefs were wholly replaced by cold science. A wise man will enjoy the goods of which there is a plentiful supply, and of intellectual rubbish, he will find an abundant diet in our own age as in every other. I've just finished reading the chapter. We'll go through the English workshop. Page number 98, intellectual rubbish, English workshop. Question number 1. The following expressions are a combination of a noun preceded by a describing word. Fatal mistake, foreign customs, unappetizing diet, plentiful supply, simple device, savage controversy, modern technique, foolish custom. Now what we have to do here is replace the describing words with as many others as you can that go with the underlined nouns. Like for example, they have given here silly mistake. It can be grave mistake. It can be careless mistake, obvious mistake, and many more. Okay, so let's continue. We have just done the first one. Now regarding the custom, old customs, traditional customs, Indian customs. Regarding the diet, balanced diet, healthy diet, weight loss diet, nutritive diet. Then the next one is restricted supply, industrial supply, efficient supply. Device, electronic device, rhetorical device, storage device, tracking device. Major controversy, bitter controversy, endless controversy, political controversy. Next is analytical technique, alternative technique, popular technique, modified technique. Question number 2, use the following idioms, expressions in sentences of your own. The first one is to be prone to. The sentence is, this stretch of road is prone to accidents. The next one is to have a difference of opinion. There was a difference of opinion between the principal and the class teacher. Children, please note down the spelling of principal because there are many students who make mistake in this. The next one, to go beyond. We need to go beyond and solve the problem rather than talking about it. Fourth one, to have a beneficial effect. Her speech had a beneficial effect on me. Next is to have a bias. They have a bias against the minorities. To undo. Can someone help me to undo my seatbelt? To be wary of. Parents should teach their children to be wary of strangers. Under the influence. She misbehaved because she was under the influence of drugs. I hope you all have understood till here. Let's move on. Say why. One should avoid getting angry about a difference of opinion. I'll give you the answers. Because it shows that one is subconsciously aware of having no good reason for one's thinking. The writer found his stay abroad very profitable because it helped him in diminishing the intensity of insular prejudice. The writer grew less dogmatic and more open-minded because he mingled with social groups. Having different opinions, he traveled and he observed himself whenever there were contrary opinions. Men declaring that they are saints write letters to the writer because they want to propagate their thoughts and thus earn popularity for themselves. The writer claims that all false beliefs need not be replaced by cold science because the world would lose some of their interest and variety. Let's move on. Make sentences of your own to show the difference of usage of the following homophones. Children, you all know homophones. The pronunciation is same, but the meaning is different and even the spellings are different. Now, the first one is device. The computer is an electronic device. And device, D-E-V-I-S-E, Mr. Malhotra manages to devise a new strategy to fight the competition. Advice. As a noun, Myra also gave some helpful advice on fire prevention at home. Now, as a verb, the teachers advised him to take the test. Practice. The practice of sati was indeed cruel. And the verb, you should practice more to get good marks. I hope you understand the difference between the noun and the verb of the homophones. Let's continue. List the various ways of avoiding error mentioned in the passage. We are doing question number 6 now. As dialogue writing has been omitted from the portion, we are not going to do question number 5. We are moving on to question number 6. List the various ways of avoiding error mentioned in the passage. The various ways of avoiding error mentioned in the passage are: observation. Make the observation yourself, thinking that you know when in fact you don't is a fatal mistake. If an opinion contrary to your own makes you angry, that is a sign that you are subconsciously aware of having no good reason for thinking as you do. Whenever you find yourself getting angry about a difference of opinion, be on your guard. You will probably find on examination that your belief is going beyond what the evidence warrants. Traveling is a good way of ridding oneself of certain kinds of dogmatism by becoming aware of opinions held in social circles different from one's own. It is also very profitable in diminishing the intensity of insular prejudice. Question number 7. Answer the following questions. If an opinion contrary to your own makes you angry, what does it indicate? The answer is, if an opinion contrary to your own makes you angry, that is a sign that you are subconsciously aware of having no good reason for thinking as you do. What are the most savage controversies about? The most savage controversies are those about matters as to which there is no good evidence either way. So whenever we find ourselves getting angry about a difference of opinion, be on our guard. We will probably find on examination that our belief is going beyond what the evidence warrants. What are the benefits of travel? Traveling is a good way of ridding oneself of certain kinds of dogmatism by becoming aware of opinions held in social circles different from one's own. It is also very profitable in diminishing the intensity of insular prejudice. Is the influence of foreign customs always beneficial? The influence of foreign customs is not always beneficial. In the 17th century, when the Manchus conquered China, it was the custom among the Chinese for the women to have small feet, and among the Manchus for the men to wear pigtails. Instead of each dropping their own foolish customs, they each adopted the foolish custom of each other. And the Chinese continued to wear pigtails, and they shook off the dominion of the Manchus in the revolution of 1911. What are the advantages of an imagery argument with a person having different bias? Having an imaginary argument with a person having a different bias has only one advantage as compared with actual conversation with opponents. This one advantage is that the method is not subject to the same limitation of time and space. Why should one be wary of opinions that flatter one's self-esteem? One should be very wary of opinions that flatter one's self-esteem. Both men and women, 9 times out of 10, are firmly convinced of the superior excellence of their own sex. There is abundant evidence on both sides. For example, if you are a man, you can point out that most poets and men of science are male. But if you are a woman, you can retort that so as most criminals. The question is inherently insoluble, but self-esteem conceals this from most people. How does fear lead us to error? Fear is the most important source of error. It sometimes operates directly by inventing rumors of disaster in wartime or by imagining objects of terror such as ghosts. Sometimes it operates indirectly by creating belief in something confronting, such as the elixir of life or heaven for ourselves and hell for our enemies. What are the two ways of avoiding fear? There are two ways of avoiding fear. One is by persuading ourselves that we are immune from disaster, and the other is by the practice of sheer courage. The latter is difficult and to everybody becomes impossible at a certain point. The former has therefore always been more popular. Now, question number 8, as the name suggests, the title of this chapter, what is the meaning of intellectual rubbish? So what does the writer want to convey through this topic or through this name, through this title? The writer uses the phrase intellectual rubbish to describe all false beliefs, baseless opinions, superstitions of various kinds. He highlights the deceptive attitude of people which stops mankind from walking on the path of knowledge and wisdom. He feels this intellectual rubbish is a result of an illogical and unreasonable view of things in general. People follow certain beliefs, ideas, customs, and rituals without inquiring into their validity. In actual fact, many of these beliefs and customs lead to evil and suffering in the world. The writer observes that human rationality is nowhere to be found. The human mind is lacking in common sense and driven by dogmatism, pride, and fear. He finds cruelty. Now, question number 9. Find the opposites of the following, that are the antonyms. Now, the opposite of cautious is reckless, dogmatic, open-minded. This is the opposite. Contrary, agreeable. Savage, calm. Beneficial, worthless. Reasonable, irrational. Hypothetical, actual. Cruelty, compassion. Immune, susceptible. So we are finished with this chapter. We are finished with the chapter reading. And we are finished with the warming up and the English workshop. Yes, students. Do you have any questions, any doubts in this chapter? Yes, Sakshi Misal. Students, do you have any doubts? So we are finished with this unit 4.3 today. Okay. I hope you all have understood this chapter. And please, if you have any doubts, you can ask me right now.
Hello, Miss.
Yes, ma'am.
हो गया lecture?
Yeah, I'm through with the chapter today.
Okay, but still near about 7 to 8 minutes are left. So can you revise the topic or
Yeah, sure.
anything
I'll do.
else?
Yes, I'll do that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Now in English workshop, students, we had to use the idioms and expressions in your own sentences. Okay. Now, if you go through this, to be prone to have a difference of opinion, to go beyond, to have a beneficial effect. Okay. These are all phrases. And in your exam, in your 80 marks written paper, you have to use these phrases in your sentences. Okay. So I have given you all the sentences. If you want, I can just tell you about the sentences. How do you need to frame the sentences? Okay. Now to be prone to, it's like being used to. Okay. So we are prone to some habits in our life. So whenever you make sentences, see that you make complete sentences. Do not use incomplete sentences when you are using the phrases in your own sentences. Okay. Now, regarding the oxymoron, okay, as you know by reading this chapter, this is related to oxymoron, where opposite kind of words are coming together to give more effect to the sentences or to create some effect. Okay, so oxymorons and antonyms, remember it's the same effect where two antonyms, two opposites are used together. Now come to page number 94 of your textbook. We'll see the questions that have been asked inside the chapter. What erroneous notion did Aristotle have, and what does his example convey to you? Okay. Now, Aristotle, he had a erroneous notion that women have fewer teeth than men. Okay. Now, see here, sometimes what happens is without knowing the proper thing, we try to argue on a point. So we should not do that. We should try to find out proofs, and if anyone argues with us regarding that point, we need to give him proper proof, and we should do proper research. So thinking that you know when in fact you don't is a fatal mistake. So please never try to do that. Try to find out whatever on whatever notion you are firm, you have to have some proof to whatever you say. Okay. Now next is, how can you prevent developing a dogmatic attitude? Okay. To prevent a dogmatic attitude, to become aware of opinions held in social circles different from your own. Like, instead of keeping that dogmatic attitude, like without seeing the evidence, we cannot stick to whatever the others say. So what we have to do is we have to find out some evidences and try to come out in social circles, discuss with other people. Okay, we should not think that we know everything. Sometimes what happens is maybe we lack some knowledge. So what we can do is we have to mix with some other people, talk to some people who have who are knowledgeable, and try to find reasons to whatever dogmatic things that we are, and we have to come out of that. Now see to the textbook meanings that have been given. Now what is the meaning of dogmatism? Insisting on the truth of one's opinion without evidence. Okay, there are some people who have the habit of insisting on what they say, without having any specific evidence about this. What is the meaning of insular? Disinterested in ideas from foreign countries. Perverse, stubbornly opposed to. Refutation, that which disapproves. Hypothetical, based on an assumption. Page number 96. Inherently, that is by nature. Or anything. Elixir of life, a divine substance that made somebody immortal. Talisman, a small object used to fetch good luck. Many people have this habit. Like people keep something with them to bring good luck to them, or during examination, out of fear, you try to keep something so that your paper goes well. So there are many people who are used to this, keeping some talisman with them so that that brings them good luck. Incantation is magical words recited in the same tone. You must have seen the magicians or some babas. They try to enchant something so that they try to bring the effect of their work that they are doing or the magic that they are doing. Paltroons are cowards. So we are through to the chapter today. Hello, ma'am. I'm through to the chapter today.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Okay. Students, we are having a 10 minutes of break. At 8:55, we'll start our next lecture. Hello, madam.
Yes, madam.
Shall we start?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone.